I don't know. The whole thing is a little, look, you're free to do it. You obviously can do it. You can have a string of casual sexual encounters. You can fuck guys within 30 minutes of meeting them. You can do that for like 10 dudes in a row. And then you meet like that one guy who you really like. It's like, okay, we're going to wait 3 months. You can do that. But from the guy's perspective, if I were to find this out, I mean, one, the whole like 10 dudes recently, immediately, that's already kind of a disqualifier. But that would just be that would just be like ridiculous. And I'd be like, yeah, you can do it, but like, I'm not going to play your game. Like, goodbye, find some sucker.
Maybe it's a compliment to you though. Like maybe if you were the guy in the situation, don't you feel like there's a little bit of a compliment in that?
This reminds me of a recent Reddit thing that we looked at. So, no, I don't think it's a compliment, because I think if she was that attracted to me, that she would just want to have sex with me. If she was that into me, she would just be wanting to have sex.
But the same way you just said, if a woman had sex with 10 people before meeting you, she'd be an immediate disqualifier. Maybe shit happens. Like I said, bitches go to Miami. Shit happens. But that doesn't mean...
You were in Miami. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that she sees something in you and she doesn't want to be disqualified, but she's made mistakes, as all humans do. Maybe you've had sex with 10 girls prior, but she doesn't want to be disqualified. So she needs to show that she's growing in her mentality, and so are you. Like I said, learning curve. I don't know why it has to be like women are manipulative. Like, yeah, sometimes we are.
Or just, no, right? That seems to be the more standard is like, yeah, that's nice that you've grown and this and that, but no, also no, hard pass, right? I think that seems completely reasonable to me.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's every single? Because I think that. You're welcome to have your feelings about that. If that's a hard no for you, that's completely okay. As well as for Brian, I don't know what your name is.
Well, whether it's a hard no for Ross.
And for most it would.
It doesn't matter if it's a hard no for Brian specifically.
You're saying for most men, you're saying for
Tony down the street specifically.
Are you saying for most men?
If a man has the preference of saying no, that's not what I have no interest in a woman who has X amount of previous sexual partners. There's nothing wrong with that. It's totally up to them.
That's okay. I think that's completely fine, and that, if she does meet someone that ends up, knowing her for her, and also just seeing her past and making the judgments on that, but also being like, I see that she is a very meaningful person, she has a really good heart, and she's very loyal, this or that, then there's still a possibility that someone could be in a committed, respectable relationship with a man that wants them just as much, even if they did have a past. But it depends. And sometimes it's rare, sometimes it's, with me. It really just depends on who you meet. And maybe a lot of men will feel like a little bit
so just to be
weird
clear,
about that.
Topic change, you're saying women who have like a past of promiscuity, essentially, there will be a man out there that is willing to date her? Is that what you're saying?
I'm kind of relating more to the fact that when you're like, oh, she did 5 guys before, or 10 guys before. This world is kind of complicated in the way where, obviously, and especially with hookup culture being encouraged and everything like that, if this girl did 5 people, right? Mm-hmm. And this was when she was like, a few years ago, and now she's kind of at, she's 23 years old. Well, she can't really take those back, so is it just an end-all be-all that she is just thrown in the trash, not wifey material forever, and she will never find someone that'll accept her because something that happened that she...
No. So it's just. So there's an old proverb, right? Not from the Bible. It's not a biblical proverb, but there's an old proverb. You can't unsuck a dick, right? So what the idea behind this is just that there's for a lot of men that would be a deal breaker if you have a high body count. It's not saying that there are some men, they might love that shit. There might be a couple of complete degenerate dudes who are like, I love that, it's my thing. But what I do think it does is it necessarily limits the pool. So you're going to necessarily limit the pool. So I think that men who would be into or liked a woman who had 20 or 30 or 40 previous partners would also like a woman who had very few previous partners, whereas the counter is not true. The opposite is not the case.
But I think a woman who felt that sexually liberated to have sex like that isn't interested in a guy like either of you anyway, so it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think
I mean,
both are
sure,
fine,
that's-
you know?
that's totally
I think it's fine
Both are
both
fine.
ways. Everyone can pick from their own pool. Doesn't mean that it's
Yeah.
bad one way or the other.
I mean, I'm not sure. This is sort of like somebody who's about to get fired and they're like, no, well, I quit. I don't really know if I buy into this so much. You're essentially saying, well, if the guy would disqualify her, then by simple virtue of him disqualifying her, she's disqualifying him.
But
Not-
that's same with you saying low body count, we disqualify you. It's
But
same,
not only
same.
on that.
Everyone just do their
No,
own
no.
If
thing.
he disqualifies
same-
her that
same.
way, then they're not meant to be, and that's
Yeah,
okay. And if she
exactly.
finds someone that she, connects with a lot and they fall in love and he's accepting of her past, say it was 5 people, 10 people, whatever. I'm not saying 1,000, okay? I'm not saying that. I'm saying 5, 10 people, whatever. Then, and he had however many people, but they look at it past judging that. They look at their character completely, how trustworthy they are, how respectful they are, how much they get along with their family, and things like that. Someone can still accept you and love you, even if you have regrettable
Yeah, but we're
things
not
in the
disputing
past.
that.
Yeah.
And- okay.
there's
Oh, well, I thought you
there's
were. I thought you were.
There's
Okay.
there's no dispute to the fact that regardless of whatever your past is, you can find somebody who will love you. It
I'm
doesn't
ask-
like that's not even in dispute here. There's people who
Okay.
reform all the time from all sorts of different things and are very good people and this type of thing. Nobody's disputing that. What I'm saying is this specifically, and this would be Brian's position too, that necessarily the pool for women is very broad. It's very broad. But if you were to look for like what you would consider husband material, like let's say the type of guy who has a lot of money, he's very handsome, he has a much higher pool than most men do, right? So if he has to choose between women who are equally attractive, but one has a much lower body count than the other, generally speaking, it makes sense why he would go for the one that has a lower body count. So if this is the case, then what's going on is women necessarily limit the pool of men who are available to them by having a higher body count. That's all that's being said here.
Wait,
and
sorry,
that makes total sense.
Did you say
For
why?
boys.
Hold
Well,
on.
I was just going to say, why do we not believe in change? Because once again, we're demonizing women for like having a promiscuous past and then waiting for their
Yeah,
new
what-
partner.
I mean,
but
what-
my question,
what's-
wait, quickly, I'm sorry. My question is, if people change and people want to be better, I don't understand why.
Brian, are we
it's like,
speaking Spanish?
Well, I don't
We
know
have
why
Andrew.
better. I also don't know why
Don't
better
date.
means
I'm sorry.
less partners,
I have a
because I don't
One
think
sec-
that's
hold
better.
on,
or
hold
worse.
on.
They already said that.
Hold
They
on.
already said that.
¿Dónde está la biblioteca?
So let's say this. I have a question.
¿Dónde está la
¿Qué?
biblioteca?
Habla?
Baño.
No, they already said that they
So
don't
you're
care
saying-
about the past reform and that there's people in the past that if they had bad stuff happen to them or they were bad, they can.
Yeah, we can look. It comes down to men are allowed to disqualify you for any single reason in the same way that women, and look, here's the reality, you women are way more picky, way more selective than men are. Men care about maybe a couple little things here. You guys have like laundry lists of things that you look for in men. You guys are way pickier, even when it comes to looks. I would argue you guys care way more about that shit. You guys are way
You're
pickier.
generalizing.
I think it's just shocking to
Do you have
guys.
statistics to
Not
show
everyone
that?
You need to be
feels that
quiet
way,
and let me
sir.
finish my point. So,
Hi, Brian.
are you drinking lean? What is that?
No, it's my energy drink.
Is it lean?
Hello?
Why do you ask that?
I don't know, bro, but maybe you're a bit intoxicated. I don't know. In
So
any
now you're
case,
accusing someone of being
I'm not.
intoxicated.
That's just.
I mean,
what you're
there could be
using
something in
to-
there.
This
I've
is an
never
orange
said
flavored
any.
Celsius, by the way.
I've never
I
said
wasn't
anything to make you
saying
think
you were
lean.
drinking lean.
I'm just.
If you are, though, cool, I
saying
guess.
stuff to you.
Never
So-
done that before.
So, look, here's the reality. Y'all are crazy picky when it comes to men, right? So, I think it's perhaps shocking to you because here's the other thing is you deal with men that are trying to fuck you and they'll let you say all kinds of dopey shit and they'll just agree with you because they're trying to get pussy, right? Most men are not going to even whether maybe you have like a kind of based brother or male friend who'll like tell you what it actually is, but most of you aren't actually accustomed to like hearing men tell you what's up and tell you, yeah, this is what we want. Most of you never even consider, what do men want? You don't consider it whatsoever. And so also it's shocking to you because most of you don't get rejected. You rarely deal with rejection. And so for this matter, you have all these men who are chasing you. No guy is ever has ever either verbalized any sort of critique of your conduct or anything that you do. And so what ends up happening is it's actually shocking to you for you to actually hear a guy articulate a standard preference or boundary when it comes to women, because most men are so desperate to you that they're not gonna put anything out there in this regard. So
I think any boundary you have on a woman is fine. That's like totally cool. I literally don't care.
Okay, how about this?
Okay.
Boundary. She can't do sex work.
Not my person.
Cool, but that's a boundary.
I don't think that's wrong. I don't think that's a wrong take to have at all.
Fair enough.
It's not my person.
Fair enough. But so going back to your point, when it comes to body count, look, as a woman, if you have a high body count, yeah, you'll probably still find a guy. But what would actually be wrong with a man or groups of men or large portions of men who find this enough justification to just reject you or disqualify you from a long-term relationship? What's actually wrong with that?
I think that it's actually not wrong. And
okay. So then
there's a sort of acceptance of this if it is what it is. Because I have a brother, he's 4 years older than me. So yeah, he's told me, some things and some things we agree to disagree on, some things, but he's, I know how some of it works. And also, just like you said, if it's a bigger pool that's going to disqualify you, it's sometimes you just need to accept that that's how it is, and that's how society is, and that's how you'll be.
Yeah,
it's
but
not
if
wrong.
that's the case, aren't you kind of setting people up for failure? If everybody agrees that this is true, then by giving the advocation or promotion to engage in that behavior and just saying you do you, aren't you in many ways pulling up the ladder behind you or sabotaging other women in the future because you know that this results limits their pool? So instead of saying, you go girl, wouldn't it actually be better to be well, wait, think about this for a second, because this could limit you and your options significantly in the future. Wouldn't that be the correct thing to do?
I had a really good friend who did that. She's from a different country. I really love her. And I, didn't always have I don't know. I just didn't always have a very good idea of dating in my head. It was always kind of toxic, whether it was me being bad or the other person being bad. And then I met this girl, and she was saying, obviously, I like to have sex. We all do. Everybody does. But, if you want to be happier and feel a little bit more at peace, you probably shouldn't have sex with him. And she kind of egged me on. She was like, no, don't have sex with him. Don't have sex with him. And that made me feel like she was a good friend. Now, obviously, she's not a slut shamer, of course. And like I said, we've all made mistakes. She even said herself, she's like, I've had sex with guys on the first date. But from my personal experience, and she's 2 years older than me, she would just say, come home with me tonight. Don't go home with him. She was watching me with me being like, no, don't go home with him. Stay with me. Let's treat ourselves correctly.
But the idea,
I agree with that
the
too.
idea here is to say, if she knows that it generally leads to bad results, and you know it generally leads to bad results, and you all know that it necessarily is going to limit the pool for women, then shouldn't the advocation be to other women to not engage in that behavior?
That's what I just agreed with.
Hang on. Because that's likely what's going to happen. So the idea of you go girl, you do you, and everyone can just do whatever they want because they're not hurting anybody. Shouldn't you necessarily kind of push back against that?